President Trump will deliver his State of the Union address to Congress and the American people tonight.
But he will not be addressing several Democratic lawmakers who are choosing to skip the event and hold what they're calling counter events. Occidental College assistant politics professor Isaac Hale is back with us this morning. Good to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we're all waiting for tonight's speech. What key issues do you expect the president to address?
Well, I think we'll see President Trump touting the issues that have been at the forefront throughout his term. So we'll be hearing more about immigration. We'll be hearing about tariffs, where he was just dealt a blow by the Supreme Court. And I'm sure we'll be hearing about potential war with Iran, something that is at the forefront of everyone's minds right now, and is something that stands in pretty sharp contrast to the kind of no more forever wars candidate he ran on in 2016.
Isn't this more of a midterm message? I mean, some of the things you're talking about, immigration used to be one of his strongest pieces. Now it's kind of a mixed bag for him with what's happened. Some of these other issues you're talking about, is this really kind of, he has to lay out a message for the midterms?
He does, but I think what we see, even though President Trump is lagging in the polls on all of these issues, large majorities of the public say they disapprove of his performance in each of these areas: immigration, tariffs, and foreign policy. He's nevertheless doubling down on those, and I think we can expect to hear more about them tonight.
What do you think about tone tonight? Will it be celebratory for what he's going to call wins? He's, of course, tested the powers of the executive branch. Is he going to be defensive? What do you think here?
I think we'll largely hear a celebratory tone. I think I could be wrong about that, but the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, I'm sure, is something he will tout tonight. And I think he will also be talking probably about what he perceives as a success in Venezuela, which many believe he's attempting to carry through into the military action in Iran.
You know, it's interesting on the Democratic side because you have this somewhat of a strategy of staying out of the chamber. It is always kind of odd for the party that's not in power to be in the chamber during these. There's always a moment that happens that goes viral, it seems, with somebody within the chamber. What do you make of Democrats looking to sit out, and what kind of strategy is that? And then those who choose to go, what do you think that says?
I think, as in previous years, we're going to kind of see a mixed bag. Some members will boycott and attend other events. Some will be in the chamber. Some may attempt to walk out of the chamber. Some will maybe wear clothing or accessories expressing their discontent with the Trump administration. So it's not exactly a unified approach. And I think the diversity of approaches is also reflected in the fact that there are multiple Democratic responses to the State of the Union happening as well.
Yeah, it will be interesting. Let's talk about one of those given by Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger. What do you think of that one? Interesting choice?
I think it's a pretty safe choice. Okay. So she just won a big race in Virginia. This is a key state for Democrats. Virginia is also key in the redistricting wars that are happening right now. They're probably going to do a redistricting of the state that will net Democrats additional seats going into the midterms. I expect her to focus on these issues like the economy and immigration, areas where Democrats are relatively unified. Some other issues like foreign policy, where reporting shows that congressional Democrats are less unified, may receive less of a focus in that response. We may hear more of that coming from some of the other Democratic responses, like Pennsylvania Representative Summer Lee, who's giving the progressive response, and then may highlight some of the cleavages in the party going into the midterms and going into the 2028 race.
Okay, well, we'll be watching tonight.
Yes, we